I think we're getting very close here.
I have the low chair. I have the low chair.
All present, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think it has to be on that side, right?
Yes.
So we will continue on with proclamations and presentations. And I believe staff would like to bring this up. Yes. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, since our young people are here to receive their recognition, we'll move that item on the agenda up to this area too, I think, if that meets the council's approval. Yes. Because that way we can get them back to continue to get ready for studies and graduations and whatever else they have to do. So at this time, we'll do our annual code enforcement activity report. So staff, thank you. Good seeing you.
I wasn't here for last year's, but I've heard Lamont does a phenomenal job in presenting code enforcement issues. He's one of the best liked code enforcement officers in the peninsula. So I'm looking forward to the presentation. Live up to it.
That's almost a step above a law enforcement officer, right? Or but good recognition you get there. So, Dante, please.
Great, thank you. Mayor and members of the City Council, like our city manager said, this is our annual presentation of code enforcement activities. Code enforcement is a special activity that's really meant to address the public health and safety issues in our city. And they do that by enforcing a network of codes and regulations meant to regulate public nuisance issues, junk, inoperable vehicles, and so forth. We have 2 code enforcement officers that work with us to help improve property values, to help with vandalism and deferred maintenance that could lead to other more serious issues. Can we advance the slide? And these are generally our objectives that we have for code enforcement. Again, health and safety, property value and improvement, and working with our neighbors and our business owners in the city. One more. A change in thought. This is something that our officers already do in terms of thinking about proactive code enforcement cases, but they do approximately 400 cases per year. A lot of them are proactive, and they categorize things the same way that we categorize our streets. Things that are very visible on limited access or highways, 91, 92, and Highway 1. Obviously, those get a lot of priority. Arterials in our city, like Main Street and Kelly, get kind of the second priority. Collector streets, like Stone Pine Road and Miramontes Point Road, get a lesser priority, and then local streets. So we're looking at the things that will visually impact our residents, our visitors, our businesses, and trying to take care of those things first, in addition to taking care of any health and safety issues. The rest of the presentation, I'm going to turn over to Lamont Mack, who's going to lead us through and talk about the accomplishments from last year, and also moving forward, what we plan to do in code enforcement. So, Lamont.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good to be back for another year. Like Dante said, I want to talk about some of the things that we've encountered and accomplished over this past year, and also our goals and strategies and future goals as far as what we'd like to do going forward as well. As Dante mentioned, we've found lots of success in our proactive community preservation efforts. And that's basically using our common sense when we drive around town and trying to address situations that we see prior to residents having to call in. And those are things like chronically littered areas. We targeted some neighborhoods in particular, like in the Pilarcitos Avenue area, that seems to be neglected and seems to be a collector spot for lots of litter and gang graffiti and things like that. So we make those regular stops. We don't wait for those phone calls to come in. We go in there, we anticipate what the community needs, and we address those issues. Also, we have lots of highly visible vacant lots, particularly ones on corners and heavily traveled areas that we try and babysit and make sure that the image of the city looks good. We're also having lots of problems with chronic graffiti. Again, the Pilarcitos Avenue area, the bridge, that's heavily traveled. And again, with the traffic signs, we have lots of graffiti, decals, and things like that on traffic signs. That's a particular pet peeve of mine, because I know that every time someone drives by, they're sort of forced to look at traffic signs. So when we see graffiti and stickers and evidence that it's not being taken care of, I think that's a morale killer for the city. Also, like Dante mentioned, we focus on highly visible private property nuisances, and those would be, private properties that have gone into blighted conditions, and again, oftentimes in neighborhoods where maybe the neighbors don't have the presence of mind to call. So we take it upon ourselves to start these conversations before it gets to a tipping point, and it's worked out well as well. These are some photos, just random photos of graffiti that directly removed by code enforcement personnel as opposed to Public Works. These are just things that we see, and due to their location, their nature, we'll go ahead and we have the equipment to proactively wipe off graffiti tags and scrape off stickers and things like that. Sounds trivial, but it makes a big impact. Similarly, we have posters and signs. What we do is we go around town, and again, we try not to discourage yard sales or anything, but oftentimes we'll see garage sale signs and yard sale signs that have been there for multiple weeks. We'll try and look and make sure that the date is a date that's passed and things like that. And I think removing those from our corners really makes a large impact as well. This next slide here basically gives some general numbers of our code enforcement cases that we've opened and closed over the past year. I want to say that at Dante's suggestion, what we're going to do for years to come is to further categorize these municipal and zoning violations in particular to give you a better idea of exactly what kinds of things these are. These are pretty broad categories. But as you can see, the municipal code and zoning violations are about neck and neck at about 145 cases closed, and then the smaller portions are ones that are currently open. So things are pretty on an even pace. We're getting pretty good compliance all around, and that's a good thing. I think we are well received in the community, and we're very pleased about that. I chose a quick success story here. There are many, but I decided to highlight this one because it was started out as a proactive case probably over a year ago, and I think a lot of you might recognize this property as the last residential property on Kelly before you reach the beach down there. And I thought that while I was in the area, in such a heavily traveled area, I would see beachgoers walking by there and kind of looking and shaking their heads. And I thought, you know, I've never gotten a complaint about this house, but I think I should engage the property owner and see what we can do about this. So I've, at that time, I started making basically weekly visits to the property owner who, you know, there was a hoarding condition, some other issues, and we worked together. And, you know, we would point out different things that needed to be taken away, and I would have long-winded discussions about what needed to be done, and partnered with the senior center and some other organizations, and we got it cleaned up. And I'm proud to say that not only is the property looking much better, but it's on the market and will be sold soon. Here's another case here I'm calling an environmental impact, and what you see here outlined in red is a bridge that was built over Pillar Siddles Creek, and that's an impactful or potentially impactful situation for the creek itself because of the fact that the water course is then disturbed, and it could have all sorts of environmental impacts with the erosion on the bank and things like that. So anyway, we had the bridge removed, and that's what it looks like today with no bridge. This case here is another resolution. This is a sewage pump reservoir that was open and had some strong odors, and it was an obvious attractive nuisance possibly to children. And so what we did was we got that taken care of and sealed off, and I considered that a classic code enforcement example of taking care of, you know, everything from, you know, the odor, the fact that we had mosquito larvae in there, we had sewage, all sorts of things. So it was a good outcome.
May I ask you, was that located on the west side of Highway 1? That exact location?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
This is another relatively complex case. This is some of you may recognize this, but it's the Artist Co-op over here on Kelly Avenue. It's at the rear of the property. Apparently it's been there for a long, long time, and it's shared by a number of artists. We had lots of complaints or concerns that folks might be living in there, that the structure might be in danger of collapsing, and all sorts of, and of course the obvious eyesore from the vantage point of the school. So again, we engaged the property owners, the property manager. We did a comprehensive inspection to look for fire hazards, structural damage, things like that. So as you can see, we have a before shot or two before shots up there, and then on the bottom we see some after photos where we've demolished portions of the building and hauled away debris and made sure that fire trucks can get through there, and it was a good outcome. And actually we're still working with these owners to further bring the property up to compliance. We also have some targeted neighborhood preservation efforts where we've taken upon ourselves to adopt neighborhoods, again, that seem to be suffering from kind of a domino effect where we have blighted conditions side by side. I think what happens in a community like that is people start to move away. They say, well, no one cares, so I better get out while the getting's good. And we want to reverse that trend. So what we've done here is this is just a few examples of some of the typical conditions in some of these neighborhoods that most of us wouldn't want to live next door to. So we've worked with the property owners, and we've gotten good compliance, and people have been very thankful that we've engaged them on this level and helped them take care of these problems. This is another, again, typical example of, it's kind of a community preservation thing where it's a combination of some zoning issues and municipal code violations. Like I said, it's a relatively mundane case, but because of the location, it's on a prominent corner. There's I don't know if you notice, there's an accessory structure, that little storage shed there adjacent to the sidewalk, and the fence was kind of haphazard, and I think this was also a proactive case, but again, it had all the telltale signs of being a good target, if you will, of community preservation. And as you can see from the bottom photos, it worked out well. This one is another very high profile. I think everyone probably recognizes this house. I used to refer to it in my mind, of course, as the haunted house, but it's there on Highway 1 at Miramontes. Basically, you wouldn't be able to get to the Ritz-Carlton without looking at that every day. So I thought that was a good place to start, and what we did was we engaged the property owner, who was very willing to do what needed to be done as far as partially demolishing some of the different add-ons that have happened over the last probably century, and put a coat of paint on it, fix some windows, and he has big plans for it. So it's a very, actually looks better now than it does in that last photo, so it's actually a nice little farmhouse now. This is an example of an innovative approach that I've used to deal with another high-profile property here in town. What I did was, it's a Pandora's box of code violations, but in this case, there's lots of children involved, and what we thought were substandard housing conditions. Come to find out that the San Mateo County Child Protective Services also had a case there with a standing court order that allowed them to go in and monitor situations. And they were doing a good job, but they were overlooking some of the code violations that existed with regard to fire detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and clear windows and things like that. So I went through and did a housing inspection, and now we're working with the property owners, the county, the residents, and everyone to help this property along. We have some goals for the future here. And of course, we want to continue our prompt and efficient response to code violation complaints and observations, improve coordination with other city departments to resolve code enforcement concerns. We're also working closely right now with our business license program to help them along in their enforcement activities when they hit that stalemate of not being able to achieve compliance with business permits and whatnot. We're also looking at updating the forms that we use in the field because Officer Sweet and I spend so much time in the field, and we think that it's more efficient to be able to deliver handwritten notices as opposed to go out, confirm a violation, come back to the office, type a letter. We're going to make some more field-friendly forms that we can issue in the field and be a lot more effective with our limited time. And of course, we're going to continue our scrutiny of the and proactive improvements in what we call, the city calls the visual resource area. And that's mainly referring to those main corridors like Highway 1 and 92. And also, we want to be more strategic about how we, or a different level of strategic scrutiny as far as the sites that have potential development or recent sales transfers to make those areas more attractive to incoming property owners here in Half Moon Bay.
And I wanted to make sure that I introduce Randy Sweet, who is our other, if you can stand, is our other code enforcement officer that shares the burden with us. The other thing that we're trying to do, as you know, code enforcement is about documentation. You know, there's a lot of documentation that they have to keep, records that they have to keep, and we're always looking for ways to streamline that and make that easier for the officer, but keeps us with the records we need to have in case a code enforcement case is protracted and ends up in court. We have the documentation. One of the software programs that we're currently using it's web-based. So a code enforcement officer could potentially make notes, write letters, send violation notices out in the field, rather than having to jot it down on a pad, come into the office, type up a letter, send it out. So we're looking at ways to just automate the process a little bit more. And as Lamont said, we're also looking to integrate code enforcement into a lot of the development process and procedures that we have. We're looking at standard conditions for all of our divisions, and code enforcement is kind of weighing in on those things. What are the things that are problems or become problems in the future?
Thank you.
So at this time, if I may have the privilege as mayor to move item 14 up at this point during presentations where it's an agenda item and we could recognize our Leadership Award recipients. Is that meet with your approval?
Sure.
So we will move that forward. And Michelle, would you like to, I'm sorry to jump ahead on you, but
This is perfect.
thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm so honored to be able to have our students here tonight. I will call them up individually as we go through your PowerPoint slides. I was here earlier this year to make this City of Half Moon Bay Leadership Award an annual award. And so it's really exciting to see young students really doing and making a difference in the community. So here we go. What this award does is it recognizes the outstanding achievements and leadership of middle school and high school students. We had an award selection committee which rated the applicants' noteworthy achievements in citizenship, leadership, work ethic, community service, and overcoming obstacles to accomplish goals. The students were awarded $100 from the 8th grade through the 11th grade. The 12th grader was awarded $500. So the first student, Taylor George, are you here tonight? Do you want to come on up? So Taylor enjoys...
Would you like to do it one at a time?
Yes, we'll do one at a time. Playing, excuse me, I'm trying to read at the same time. She enjoys playing on the club soccer team in Redwood City. She's not busy with soccer in school, and she likes hanging out with her friends. She would like to play for the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team when she gets older and become a heart surgeon. So we'll give a round of applause to Taylor George.
Your mom is here. We'll do it. Come on.
I was going to tell her to come forward and take a picture. Okay, take a picture. You can come out there and take a picture of her.
All right, now we got it working. So your mom is here, right? And do we have some family also here?
Yes,
Are they like from Michigan, or where are they from?
Michigan.
How do we know, right? They look, see, Councilman Kowalczyk, when you started this program, you never dreamed you'd be giving some awards to these Michigan families, right? So congratulations for all the great work
Thank
you
you.
do, Taylor.
Thank you.
Very special.
Gabriella, is she here tonight? Congratulations, Michael.
I might add, he got his check the other night. Taylor has to wait, I think, till June 11th. Is that correct? I think we're doing it at Seacrest School for Taylor. So, thank you.
Our next is Haley Thorne. So Haley's a major goal for her is to attend a four-year university so she can study medicine. She likes to volunteer at Stanford Hospital, and it made her realize how much she wants to be a doctor and to help people. Congratulations, Haley. Eloisa? Her accomplishments include maintaining a good grade point average while assisting her community. Her goal is to become the first high school graduate in her family and to also attend a four-year college to fulfill her dreams of becoming a pediatric nurse. Congratulations. Corey, can you come up? Corey is our 12th grade winner, and he enjoys coaching basketball and passing on to others what he's learned from his coaches and mentors. He's coached Our Lady of the Pillar CYO basketball for the past 2 years with a couple of his friends. He coaches a 7th grade AAU basketball team on the coast side, in addition to attending UC Santa Cruz in the fall with a major in human biology. He will be on their basketball team. Congratulations. So we want to thank you for doing good work in the community, and you're leaders and a good example for some of the other students in our community, and keep up the good work. I also wanted to thank a lot of people that made this happen. The school, the guidance counselor at the high school, Paula, are one of our staff members who pushed her work aside to make sure all the students had checks. Siobhan coming in on her day that she was scheduled to be off and sick to sign the checks. Thank you. For the mayor who donated an extra $100 so one of our 11th graders could get an award because we just couldn't break that tie. So thank you, Mayor, for doing that. The counselor at Robin at Acuna, and our recreation committee who had the hardest job of reviewing 19 applications. So Sharzad and Marcia really stepped up to the plate along with the mayor to select the candidates. And Michael Thompson at Seacrest School, who was really rooting for his applicants. So thanks everybody for participating in this award.
I think more so, thank you, Michelle, for leading us through this, but going back just a year ago with Councilman Kowalczyk's brought this to us, and I think it's been definitely a worthwhile budgeted item, and that we share back to the community, and hopefully everyone will gain and learn something from this that you already, I'm sure, know. And would you like to make a comment, Council?
I would like to make a comment. So I want to thank the council for keeping the leadership awards going, which is great. But I want to recognize the kids, all the kids. I've used this line a couple times, but you really stood out. And out of all of the kids in the whole city, 19 went through the effort to apply. Out of all of those kids, you guys stood out on top, and I think it's really remarkable, and I want to congratulate you. I think it's great stuff. I read all your essays, and they were really impressive, really sharp. So keep working hard, keep working smart, and I know we're going to hear good things about you. And after all the council comments, Mayor, I would like to request a 3-minute recess so we can all take some photos with the kids and the kids' families.
Very, very good suggestion. Anyone else?
I would like to, for us, not right this minute, but down the road, consider maybe even increasing the amount of the awards. I think these are a tremendous way for us to know who the young people in our community are and what they're accomplishing. Because listening to some of these are very impressive. Number two, I'd like to schedule these guys to come back to us maybe periodically and let us know how they're doing, because I think it's really impressive. So, you know, we a lot of times don't know about all the things happening with the youth of our community. So it'd be nice to have them come back and tell us how they're doing.
I just want to make a comment to Corey. Corey, could you stand up for a minute? Thank you. Corey was on the high school varsity basketball team, and we have never ever had an open division basketball team in Half Moon Bay. And they did a tremendous job representing Half Moon Bay. And they went a long ways. And I tell you, these kids are out on that basketball court. I can't say 24/7 because they're supposed to take Sundays off. But they were out there a lot, and they did a tremendous job representing Little Half Moon Bay. And in fact, there were other schools that came to the championship games and things and rooted for Half Moon Bay. So that tells you what kind of quality students we have on the basketball team and at our high school. And I just want to thank you for the great job you guys did representing us. Thank you.
I think taking Councilman Kowalczyk's suggestion, maybe we'll get the award winners to come up and council, we could take a picture with your leadership award. It'll just be very brief because we have a full evening this evening. And so would you like to just step forward here? We'll have a quick recess.
The flag behind you.
Oh, the flag right here. Come on up. Come on, David. Get your cameras.
These kids are taller than me.
good. Thank all of you. Okay. We didn't get one together?
Thank you. Oh, nice. Okay, got it.
Good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Meeting back in session here, and we will we'll need a little help on community activities because there's quite a bit going on right now. So my quick ones here is tomorrow night with Deputy Sanchez. We have Tip-A-Cop, I believe down at Cameron's. Is that correct? And it's his annual fundraiser for Special Olympics. And so if anyone could stop by there and make a purchase, it sure helps the cause. He's done a great job over the years. Also, we have the Holy Ghost Festival this weekend on Main Street. The parade is on Sunday, and I believe a little parade on Saturday night.
What time is the
Correct, yep. Usually the parade's at 10 a.m.?
It's 10:30 on Sunday.
10:30 on Sunday, thank you. And also, I believe there's an upcoming general plan meeting, staff, city manager. Do we have one coming this week or next week soon? No?
Towards the end of the month.
At the end of the month. All right, thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss. All right, council members, have we missed anything?
We have graduations.
Graduation, I had that down, actually. I will tell you, the other night when I was up at the high school for the awards, one of the high school students was recognized for Community Service Award also. He had given 1,360 hours of community service in 4 years of high school. That's pretty remarkable. So anyhow, those are my mayor's announcements and community activities at this time, and we will go to our city attorney for a report out of closed session, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Muller, members of the City Council. There's one item of potential litigation involving significant exposure to litigation discussed in closed session this evening. There are also two items of real property negotiations. One involved the real property at 2450 South Cabrillo Highway, Half Moon Bay. The other involved the real property at 501 Main Street, Half Moon Bay. There was no reportable action on any of those items. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council reports. Councilman Kowalczyk, would you like to start, please?
Yes, I've been pretty consumed in the last 2 weeks with bridge safety issues, if you will. So that's been my primary activity in the community between meetings.
Thank you. Councilman Alfano.
Yes, back on the 21st, we had a LAVCO meeting. Wasn't too much on there, but I think before long, we may be re-looking at the Mosquito District and possibly the Harbor District may be coming up too. And then on the same day, the Boys and Girls Club had a community unity dinner up in Oceana. And I have to tell you, their dinners have gotten better every year. There's more attendance, there's more things happening that they're doing, and they're so happy with the cooperation they're getting from the city with the skate park, what do they call it, skate plaza now? And the other, Ted Adcock here and Parks and Rec. It was really a really fun and enjoyable evening up there. And then last week, we went over to the Redwood City, and we had the sheriff's promotion ceremony, and I think there were about 9 people promoted, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and one, I think, assistant sheriff, and Lieutenant Williams was there getting promoted to captain. It was really it was such a big group, they had to move to the Fox Theater. It was really well done. And then this is an interesting one. On the 29th, we had our first meeting of the SAM Recycled Water Committee. And we're resurrecting the concept of attempting to provide recycled water in our community. And with all of the water issues and the drought, I think the timing is perfect. And our goal is to relook at what didn't go right last time and try to find a way around that this time. And the people on the committee seem very agreeable to trying to make this move forward. So I have my fingers crossed, but I'm hoping this will be successful. And then on Friday night, we had the Council of Cities dinner in Hillsborough, and the topic was cybercrime, and it was very interesting. The one thing you walk away with is they kept saying, change your passwords, the whole night. But it was a very good dinner that night.
Councilman Patridge?
Well, it was a meeting-free 2 weeks for me because several of our meetings were canceled due to lack of business. However, I did attend the high school every 15-minute program. It was a really great program. It was a 2-day program. They usually have it before the school has a prom, so what the every 15 minutes stands for is that somebody is killed every 15 minutes by being on drugs or alcohol. And since this program, they said that it is now more like 36 minutes instead of every 15 minutes. So it has been impressive. The one thing that was so impressive about the program was the second day, which was in the gym. And it was actually a funeral. And the parents of the students that were killed were all dressed up in black. And so when I arrived, I had just got off the softball field, and I was not dressed appropriately, so I quickly went home and changed into proper attire. I didn't know that that's what the program was going to be, but it was very moving. They had bagpipes from the sheriff's department, and kids pushed in the coffin, and friends of the kids talked, the parents talked, and the victims talked. And then they had a mom of a son that had passed away. And so it was very moving. I thought the program was very well done, and it was the CHP that had put it on. So Half Moon Bay, I guess they got a $10,000 grant from CHP to put it on. So it was a really well worth program. And then I presented and attended the high school scholarship night. And it's amazing, this little community gave $135,000 plus in scholarships to students at the high school. It was really awesome. And yesterday I attended the Half Moon Bay Village opening. That was so nice. I had a couple come and tell me they wanted me to go visit their room. So I had to go upstairs to the second floor and visit their room. Because I had talked to him and said, I remember you and how much concern you had about the place and how do you like it now? Well, we really like it. And then the husband came and said, you have to come and visit our room. So I did. And I'm telling you, those rooms are well done. The ceilings are 9 feet tall. They have nice big bathrooms, nice bedrooms, and they have some great views, let me tell you. They have some great views. So I hope there's some space when I need to move over there. But it's because it's a great place to be. So those are the 3 things I did in community.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Some of the events that have been previously mentioned, and just another congratulations to former Lieutenant Lisa Williams, who is now a captain. Just shows all the great work she did on the coast was definitely rewarded and recognized. So that's a great thing to see. And she is, her husband was a part of the sheriff's program, and so was her father. And she found out, it was interesting through their autobiography, she is just from the county the whole time. So, and a lot of the officers that were being sworn in were people that grew up here in the county and became officers. So that's really a great connection people have. Also spent some time at the high school myself at the annual Rotary Chamber project where we help the senior students with life lessons and how to succeed at work. And again, Assistant Superintendent John Corey and I do a class called Succeeding in the Workplace. And we did 5 classes that day. So we ran through all the seniors. And just well, personally, what was kind of fun for me, I saw so many kids whose either father, uncle, or grandparent I knew and went to school with that were graduating. And I recognized them. It was like, are you a? And sure enough, they were. So a lot of those kids I hadn't seen since they were little. So that was kind of fun. But really, the kids were really good about it. We did interview sessions with quite a few of them too. And talk about the community service these students are doing. This is more than just picking up trash, which is a good thing alone. Many of the students were going off to other countries, got grants, and were helping students in India, in China, just had dedicated their whole summers to go in small villages, and some of their families had gone with them. So incredible things that they're doing, and clearly these students are going to go on to do better things. So just ties into, every little bit that you can give to them. You had a great scholarship night from the community, and if we can contribute a little bit too, these are all worthwhile people. Also, at the, I think as Councilmember Alifano mentioned, we had gone to a dinner that had a panel talking about cyber crimes and really credit card thefts and how they do that. A lot of great information that we talked to the people. They were from Visa. One of them was a former Secret Service agent that Visa has now hired, and they're willing to come to the community, and maybe we can do something like have a town meeting just for those ins and outs of how to protect yourself. And again, they said change your passwords all the time. You've got to be diligent with that. And you may want to use your credit cards rather than the debit suggestion, because it's easier to steal money, and it's an easy path to crack your code or use your card, where if you're using it in the credit format, there's another middleman on there. So there's a lot of interesting things that, we watch it when you use your debit card. And watch where you use it too. I think another one was the little machines. You do swipe your card. If it's not stable or if it doesn't look right, I said don't use your card in it. And report it too, because that could have some malicious things going on with it. And I went to the school board meeting just to thank them for the cooperation and partnership that we have with them as far as the skateboard park, the gym, the library, the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, these were all things that we had talked about and worked on 10, 15 years ago, and for various reasons did not happen, but this is all coming together now. So the school board is very excited with us and definitely is a great partner with us. And congratulations to a couple of people who are retiring. Good friends of ours, Shirley Mate, Barbara Lohman, and Margaret Ward, all had in excess of 35 years with the school district. And they were retiring. I think some of them were 38 years. And just lastly, we had gone to the senior opening of the new senior village that used to be in Bloom Lane. And Naomi and I had gone through about 5 years ago with some of the planning sessions. And those residents, of course, were losing their homes, and they were apprehensive, no matter how good you're going to tell them it is. That's a scary situation to be in. But what the planning was done for this, and they did give our planning department kudos for helping out the staff at Mid-Penn and the county and the city. These were all great partnerships to get that done. They had it very open, and a big theme in the old Bloom Lane was a lot of the neighbors had little potted plants. So one of the gifts they gave to all the new neighbors was potted plants. And they wanted to show you their new places where they lived, and they were just so proud of them. Very house proud for moving in there. And a lot of them continued the potted plants out into their little decks that they had too. And we're looking at next year for the opening of the additional phase. So I know Alan and I had talked to the executive director, and maybe this is something we can talk to the city manager in the future. Housing for our seniors, to let them age in place in our community is really important. And you know, with the housing properties that go up and up. But to keep our people in our town as they transition along, I think there's opportunities for us with some property we own or we can look at, that we can continue to expand on that, because it's really a great thing to keep people in the community. So that was very rewarding. So that's it.
Thank you. It's been a busy 2 weeks, so I'll go through it as quickly as possible. But before I even start, I have to tell you, I don't think I've been with better groups of people in my life than I have been the last 2 weeks. Absolutely respectful, generous, kind, caring about this city and this community. I know we're going through an unfortunate situation right now over the bridge, but let me tell you, those people who were at these events were dedicated to this coastside and dedicated to this city. They were just absolutely wonderful. First one was the Boys and Girls Club, and again, they gave special recognition to staff and partnerships, and every place I attended was partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. And all of you staff, I don't want to mention one of you, but let me tell you, I think just about everyone was mentioned at the Boys and Girls Club event, starting there, and then the awards night followed, again, giving the awards out. Scholarship night, same thing. It's amazing how kind and generous this community. I told them 51 years ago when I graduated from that high school, there was 2 scholarships for $100, and definitely I did not get one. So there was hope for all of the rest of the ones that didn't get a scholarship. And then going to the 20-year anniversary of the Children's Theater, who people just get engaged and help their children and other people's children grow out of build their self-confidence to get on the stage and dance or sing or act. It's just absolutely amazing. They had a fundraiser there, and the parents and the grandparents are committed to their families and committed to the theater and committed to the city. It was just absolutely wonderful. And then to top it off yesterday with the phase 1 of the Half Moon Bay Village with Mid-Peninsula Housing, they could not stress enough how they appreciated staff's work. And Bruce, all of you were really recognized personally there to say what a great job. And for them to put together, the first phase is 45 units, and the second phase will be 115 units. That's pretty special, and it's very affordable. They go by the medium income of what you can afford to pay, and the selection process is fair. And we all know we go to CCAG and Council of Cities and visit. Let me tell you, Half Moon Bay is definitely on the leading edge of affordable senior housing in San Mateo County. Absolutely. Atherton, no. Burlingame, no. Hillsborough, no. Let me tell you. Woodside, no. But Half Moon Bay, we've had the foresight to do that, and we are protecting our seniors for in-home care, and these facilities are just fantastic. And again, it's about partnerships, and how do we build those partnerships, and how do we even provide for future affordable housing on the coast side. And I cannot stress how much appreciation is given by us and them, the work that we all do together. So thank you for that, and it's a busy time, and so we will move on now to city managers' updates. And thank you, Stuart, for your patience here.
Thank you. The first item is that we do have a new library community meeting on June 5th at 7 p.m. So we encourage people to show up there. We've had about, I think, over 1,000 people to already participate. This is a very nice model on how do we build new projects in the community, getting community buy-in on every step that we go. Main Street Bridge scope of work, I reported last week that we had not heard back from, or last time we met, we had not heard back from Caltrans. We have now, so this item will be on your agenda on June 17th with the scope of work for testing of the Main Street Bridge. Last time I reported that we had not heard back from the state parks on the Pilarcitos Bridge repair. We were trying to invite somebody to come in, and we have confirmation that somebody will be at our June 17th meeting from the state parks to talk to us about where they are on the bridge repair and what the process that they are going through. So those are the three main items. If there's anything else that council would like me to report on?
Council, would you like to ask any questions of staff?
Question, Stuart, the library, a community meeting, will that be at the library? Or? Yes. Okay.
Alex says yes.
7 p.m. at the library, no.
Tomorrow is the stakeholders meeting in the afternoon, and we're at the EOC, communities over there.
Yeah, and just about quickly on the library, Stuart, is just about every event I attended, people were very interested and very enthused about the library too. And when we're looking at the logistics of this whole coast side and the potential education that we can share with the whole coast side on this library, this is just absolutely wonderful. And we will be anxious to hear what type of scope work that we could do on this Main Street Bridge. This is going to be quite a lengthy process, but at least we started the process, so thank you for that. And the Pilarcitos Bridge, I was with Rich Gordon Saturday night. Same thing, he's hearing about it and doing their very best, but the state has a lot of issues all the time, but the state's doing well, so let's hope they can get it straight. So moving on to public forum, thank you for your patience. I think, is she here still? I had a card from Clarice. I'm sorry, Clarice, yeah. With HIP Housing. Thank you for patience.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members. My name is Clarice Veloso. I'm the Development Director for HIP Housing. I would like to thank the council and city staff for your continued partnership, especially when housing demand could not be any higher. The County of San Mateo cites that the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the county is almost at $2,200 a month, putting it out of reach for most teachers, home health aid workers, bank tellers, and so many hardworking people in the county. This same study also cites that minimum wage earners would have to work over 200 hours per week to afford this rent. So tied with San Francisco, this puts San Mateo County as the most expensive county in the country. HIP Housing's programs create affordable housing for over 1,400 people each year. 100% of your contribution goes directly towards our housing services. This year, our home sharing program fielded 21 calls from Half Moon Bay residents inquiring about housing services. We interviewed 18 people and matched 3 families in home sharing in Half Moon Bay. So thank you again for your support.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Comment, Vice Mayor?
What was interesting, and I'm sure, Clarice, you know the statistics, they were telling us this weekend over at the senior opening, South San Francisco had, Mid-Penn had a project there for 60 units. They got over 1,000 applications. So the need is so great. And that's not the people that are in high tech, that have the high salaries. These are just people, everyday working people, and a lot of them seniors who have been forced out of their homes. So I used to think we were the second most expensive county. We're now the first in the country.
We're number 1.
You know, and if I may, you know, when we talked about this Half Moon Bay Village Partners yesterday and partnerships, Wells Fargo is investing with the Mid-Penn and the county $28 million in this affordable housing, and Union Bank also is great, the partnership. So that's, as we mentioned yesterday, we can't do a lot of this without the partnerships of the financial institutions. So Union Bank is phase 1 and Wells Fargo is phase 2. So thank you for that, and thank you for HIP housing. Moving on to the consent calendar. Items 1 through 6.
I would move for approval of items 1 through 6.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So we're at 5-0.
Moving on to item 7, I believe. Is that correct? This is a public hearing, and so at this time, we will ask staff with Stuart and Scott to make this presentation.
Sure. I'm going to turn the bulk of it over to Scott. I just wanted to point out why we do fees for items. It's to protect the long-term financial stability of the city. We want to, for people who use items of government service exclusively for themselves, it's been determined that they should pay for those services. These are not things that are community-wide, like when you have a police patrol or when you're responding to emergencies. These are items that when you use them, no one else can use them. So that's why we set fees like this, and I'll let Scott go through the fee schedule and what some of the changes have been.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Council, this evening we're presenting for your consideration the proposed master fee schedule amendments for fiscal year 2014-15. And as City Manager pointed out, each year at this time we update the master fee schedule and we tie it to the Consumer Price Index, which for our areas, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, for the year ending December 2013. So this year, that reflects an adjustment of 2.6% across the board. And we also take this time to add any new fees as identified and as was just pointed out, with the goal of cost recovery for services provided by the city. This year we have just one new fee to recommend, and it is the technology fee for cost recovery related to maintaining the city's technology systems, as we've spoken a lot about recently, and including but not limited to an ERP system or financial system, phone systems, and other relevant technology that takes care of scanning, storage, retrieval. And staff recommends a technology fee of 4%, and that's 4% of the total permit fees for building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, with the expectation of 25% cost recovery. And we have provided for you an example. And the way I worked up this example, we using our permitting system, we came up with three scenarios here. And the first is the example of a hot water heater replacement with a value of $1,000. The technology fee is $5, $4.85. The next example is a furnace replacement with a value of $2,000, technology fee $650. And a larger project, and this includes several of the permits cited or examples cited above, a bathroom remodel, $25,000 in value with permit fees of $617.10. It's a $25 technology fee. So as stated earlier, the master fee schedule rates were adjusted 2.6 across the board, and Other changes include staff research fees reflect current salary updates, because again, the goal is to recover costs. The California Vehicle Code fees for municipal citations has been updated to reflect not only nearby peer cities, but the Sheriff's Department guidelines. Just some administrative changes. Department of Fish and Game, we reflect its new name, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And the Coastal Development recommended change from a flat fee to a deposit. And the goal of this is to better capture actual costs. So we're recommending a change in that structure. Recommended actions. In addition to this hearing, we are available for any questions, but we recommend that Council adopt the resolution approving City of Half Moon Bay master fee schedule. Thank you.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing. I have no cards regarding the master fee schedule. I will close the public hearing. I'll bring it back to council for questions.
Scott, I'm just curious. I see the three examples. If somebody were coming in to, say, build a house, and I guess they could be spending $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, would it still be 4% of their total project cost?
No. I misspoke the other day. It's actually the permit cost. Right. It's 4% of the permit cost, not of the project cost.
So, if it was, oh, there it is. If it was a new house, would it be a significant change? Do you have any feeling? I mean, I see these examples, they're fairly minor.
It would be an added a bit for sure, but I think the most relevant example would be the $25,000 value, and that's because when we plug the numbers, I have the documentation here. We use the actual permitting system when I came up with these examples. And so I said, okay, I want electrical, I want plumbing, the exhaust fan, tried to include enough components that there are lots of fees being hit. So there's probably a dozen things on this page. And again, out of $617 in fees, the total added fee is $25. So it's 4% of that fee total. So it's an added line item, but we tried to keep it minimal, and we certainly, in our research, we looked at a number of cities in the area and came in lower.
Thank you. Any questions, further questions with council? We've had our discussion, staff's presentation, public hearings closed, and so I would entertain a motion, if so.
I would move to adopt the resolution approving City of Half Moon Bay's master fee schedule.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further comments? Otherwise, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alfano?
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
Yes.
Councilmember Qualcheck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, so ordered. Thank you. Moving on to item 8. Also, interim city manager and city clerk.
I'm going to turn this over completely to the city clerk. This is our normal election.
Great. So good evening. As you know, November 4th, 2014 is the date set for the Half Moon Bay municipal election. This is the election that we have in even years to elect council members. November 2014, we will be having an election for 3 city council seats. I want to let the public know if they're interested in running for city council, they can contact my office. The nomination period for candidates opens Monday, July 14th at 8:30 a.m. and will end at Friday, August 8th, 2014. The deadline to file nomination papers would be extended, however, if an incumbent elective of the city has not filed by that deadline extension date. So what is before you this evening is the resolution that would call and give notice of the election, and also various contracts with the County of San Mateo to provide services, setting the hours. The polls will be open, lots of other details related to the election itself for the city council seats, and if you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
This is definitely a legal standard procedure, so I don't think we need to discuss it too thoroughly.
City Attorney, can we do one resolution for the entire?
Sorry. For all, you mean just for the city council? Or do you mean for the other election? Yeah. So actually, the County of San Mateo requires a separate resolution for each election matter. So this would be the first one this evening of calling, giving notice, authorizing the contract, and setting the hours, et cetera.
So one resolution will handle all three bullet points on this one? Okay.
That's what I think you meant.
Yeah. So I would move that we adopt a resolution calling and giving notice of the holding of a general municipal election to be held on November 4th, 2014. Secondly, requesting that the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors consolidate a general municipal election to be held on November 4th, 2014. And thirdly, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the provision of election services between the City of Half Moon Bay and San Mateo County Chief Elections Officer.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Mayor Muller.
Yes, so ordered. Moving on to item 9.
So this is the, to put the half-cent sales tax on the ballot for 3 years. We have followed council direction from previous council meetings in how we drafted this. And the reason we are doing this is to show financial prudence going forward. There is a number of capital projects that the city council and the community still needs to fund over the next 3 years, including the library, including repairing streets, including the Smithfield Park. So there's a number of capital projects that we just don't have funding for at this point in time. And the real purpose of doing this is to create a better community. I think we showed this with the last Measure J that was adopted, the projects that we have done with the Oversight Committee, the projects that we're doing is making our community better, and we're hoping to continue that for the next 3 years. And I'll turn it over to Michelle for more of a detailed presentation.
Okay, so the calendar before you tonight is to review documents to include a local revenue ballot measure on the November 2014 election. Should you decide to proceed, the calendar shown on this slide shows the timeline from tonight through election on November the 4th. The estimated cost for this election is close to $4,000. Does not include legal advertising, public education, or staff time. And because we do have another general election scheduled cost, that's why the cost would be so low. The specifics for tonight is we're seeking direction on the sunset clause and the 75-word ballot question. The timeline, this estimate is considered to be conservative and depends on many other factors. We reviewed these numbers on May the 20th at the City Council meeting. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, and they're still very consistent with everything we discussed. Okay, this represents the sequence of events, and if extended, it simply continues to the 2019 date that we discussed, so that even the name doesn't change. It just simply continues on as it's already being collected.
Okay, we discussed the language for the ballot measure, and this version is 73 words. Half Moon Bay, City of Half Moon Bay is counted as one word, and as does half cent. So this is the language that we're proposing for the ballot. Our recommendation, if the council so directs, before you is a resolution calling and giving a notice of an election to consider a local sales tax ballot measure, which include introducing the enacting ordinance that would take place upon voter approval. So tonight we would adopt the resolution. We would request the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors to consolidate a municipal election and direct the city attorney to prepare impartial analysis of the measure and setting dates for arguments on the measure. Oops. And any questions?
Yeah, Vice Mayor?
Well, there it goes. A little glitch tonight. Thanks, Michelle, for the outline. And I think this is a lot of positive things to continue. Of course, this helps us with procuring and reestablishing a new library for the coast side. All the things there, the 7 things: to fund a new library, to upgrade Smithfield and our other recreation areas that are available down in that property over in Wavecrest, repairing the city streets. I've seen how positive all of that has been for the community, and we keep hearing people want more streets. So it's that pothole out in front of your house that is very important to a lot of people. And then, of course, improving the youth and senior services, just with the work that we've done in, using this building for the Boys and Girls Club and for other community operations, along with improving the parks. And then to keep the economic wheel running, the economic development for those who have businesses here on the coast, and being smart with promoting tourism, since that is the bulk of where our funds come for us to have the community things. I think this is a positive step. I know that I had my personal feelings about this last time because I just wasn't sure with us coming out of the recession, but seeing everything that got done with the money over that half-cent sales tax and getting positive feedback from so much of the community, I think that we're on the right track in doing this and continuing. And I do like that it's just 3 years, because you can consolidate and get so much done, and being accountable to the community for those things, which we have shown we have done in the last measure too. So I do support this.
I want to echo what Rita said, that the use of the money has been great for the community. And of course, continuing the oversight committee is really a plus. I think we need to do that because the committee was very good in reviewing, and they really went over it. And I want to thank Rick for Alan for putting the work in getting this passed 3 years ago, so thank you. But I will support this. I think it really will help us to try and get a lot of our deferred maintenance up to date. We are so far behind that. This has really helped us, and to see our streets and people really happy that they are getting, repaired. And the library, that's all you hear about is people wanting that library. So I think the monies will be used to make greater quality of life for the community.
Yeah, I remember at the parking meter meeting, when people were really against parking meters, were like, okay, if you don't like parking meters, what do you think would work? And that's where this whole idea started. It really, in effect, really came from the community. And then Naomi said, I could live with a half penny for 3 years. And even though I think we were concerned about the time period, I remember the city manager saying, gee, 3 years will happen very quickly. We're like, no, I think we want to demonstrate how we're going to use these funds, which I think the city has done a very good job doing concrete things, or I should say asphalt things, with the money. And this, I'm hopeful this last extension will really help bridge the gap between where we are and then where the bond money, our payments drop off. So I think the timing is very good. And I think also the community now understands that having the tourists share in helping contribute to our community financially is a much fairer way to do it than putting the entire burden only on our residents. And I don't know of anybody, and we're in a business on Main Street in town, I've yet to have anybody really say anything about the sales tax rate in our community. It's just, it's not a critical item that stops anybody from eating, shopping, or buying a new laptop. So I'm very happy that we were successful the first time, and I think the timing is right for this extension.
Councilman Kowalczyk?
So it's ironic that I supported Measure J the first time, because you guys know me, that I'm pretty disinclined to support tax measures unless there's a concrete connection to what you can do with the funds. And we made a commitment to the community to spend the funds in a specific way. We expressed our intentions to spend the funds in a specific way, and we delivered on every one of them. And I think that should engender trust that we were good stewards with the community's resources. The sales tax, in my mind, and in reality, is the only avenue we have to allow the people that visit our community to contribute financially to our community through the sales tax. And I think it is great that they will help fund our new library. Again, I am typically not in support of taxes, but I've also spent time in our library and seen how tired it is, that our best furniture is the rejected furniture from Millbrae when they updated their library 2 times ago. And because a substantial portion of the new library will be funded with these resources, I'm going to support this. In addition to other important things, we had members of the community come in and say, you've repaired all these streets. What about my horrible, horrible street? It's full of potholes. And of course, we were not able to fix the most damaged streets because that is much more costly than repairing streets with minor damage. But now we're going to be able to address those. And so for those reasons, I am going to support this.
Thank you. I think talking to a number of businesses recently in the community, the most asked question they receive is, where are the bathrooms? They never are questioned about the sales tax. It is the most asked question, and so I think that's something that we are looking at for providing a better service with the remodeling of our MacDutra Park, and so that is very important for the business community, believe it or not. And so I think that we're talking about Sam here in a little while on an agenda item, and so that does have an impact on the businesses in town. So I think that half-cent sales tax extension is well worth it. I believe in taxes are a guarantee that the future of communities can continue to move forward in a positive direction. So if there's no further questions, we'll take a motion on staff's recommendation, please.
I would recommend we adopt the resolution calling for a municipal election to submit to the voters a local ballot measure extending a 1/2 cent transaction use sales tax to fund Half Moon Bay City Services, requesting the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors to consolidate a municipal election with other elections to be held on November 4th, 2014, directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis of the measure and setting dates for arguments on the measure.
Second.
That's been moved in second. I do have a question, and maybe the city attorney could respond to this letter we received June 3rd regarding the zip code, and I'm not quite sure what the answer would be on this, and I don't know if you had a chance to review it. It just came to us.
I mean, looking at it quickly tonight, the Board of Equalization is the one who distributes sales tax to everybody. It's not distributed by the city. We don't collect it ourselves. So the real question would be is for this person to contact the Board of Equalization to inform them what is going on, or to talk to the county, because obviously it's the county who would have their interest in it. And I will tell you, our city has a sales tax auditor to make sure that what is charged within the city is getting collected within the city. The county has somebody who does the same thing. So if it's something that the county would then talk to the Board of Equalization and figure out how to correct this situation. So it's really not done at the city or the county level, but only at the Board of Equalization level.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the audit. The accusation here is that the city has been taking this money, but since we audit, we only get what is entitled to us. Is that correct?
We only get what the Board of Equalization gives us. So if the Board of Equalization determines where sales tax money is supposed to be distributed. We have hired a firm to make sure that the Board of Equalization is not distributing money that should go to Half Moon Bay to somebody else. The county has somebody either on staff or they've hired to make sure that money that's supposed to go to the county goes to the county. So, I mean, we each have our own firms that do this for us to make sure that we are receiving the right amount of money. There are times, I will tell you, working in Brisbane, that the Board of Equalization does make mistakes. They allocated incorrectly about $10 million worth of sales tax money in Brisbane statewide. And when we pointed that out to the Board of Equalization, they corrected it, and we got our check. And all the counties had a reduction for that time period when we got our check. So if this is incorrect, the county is a place that they should go to. The county would raise the issue with the Board of Equalization, and the Board of Equalization would investigate it and determine where the money should go.
Thank you. Maybe we could send a brief note to this individual and respond as you just did, but thank you for that clarification. I was contacted by an individual in El Granada recently that bought furniture in Millbrae and asked the same question, and now we know the answer. So thank you. We have a motion and a second on this extension of this ballot initiative for local sales tax for November 2014. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Patridge?
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, so ordered. Moving on to the item 10. This will again be Siobhan.
Yes.
So our third election-related matter this evening is a report regarding the notice of sufficient petition signatures received for the Main Street Bridge Preservation Act. On February 10th this year, the city received a notice of intent to circulate an initiative petition entitled the Main Street Preservation Act. On April 16th, 2014, the proponents of the initiative submitted signed petitions to my office. The petitions were reviewed by the County of San Mateo Mateo Elections Department, and on May 22nd, the County Elections Department confirmed that the petitions were signed by 660 registered Half Moon Bay voters. 656 signatures were required, so that is a sufficient number of petitions, and this would lead to the Main Street Preservation Act to be added to the next regular election, which is November 4th, 2014. At tonight's meeting, we have two alternative recommendations to you, and we're going to just quickly outline, both of those options and then get direction from you. You can take one of the following actions this evening. You can direct staff to prepare a report on the initiative's effect before placing the measure on the ballot. And for that first option, state law allows cities to defer immediate action on initiative measures in order to allow time for a study of the initiative's effects. Some of the things that the report could contain would be might be I cannot talk. The measure's fiscal impact. Its effect on use of land, its impact on funding for infrastructure, or anything that the legislative body would like to see in a report. And staff's recommendation is that given there are two ballot measures on this evening's election related to the Main Street Bridge, one of which is similar to what we received in the petition, our recommendation is to direct staff to prepare the report so that we can do some analysis on what the impact of passage of either of those initiatives would have as it relates to the November 2014 ballot measure potential. If you do direct us to prepare the report, then the report would be submitted to you at your June 17th, 2014 meeting, because there are some government code guidelines regarding timing of that report. Once you receive the report at the June 17th, 2014 meeting, at that same meeting, you would also need to go ahead and add the Main Street Preservation Act to the November 4th, 2014 election. Alternatively, what you could do this evening is defer the report, or opt not to direct staff to do the report, and to just go ahead and do the resolution giving notice for the 2014 election for this Main Street Bridge Preservation Act. So you can go ahead and do that, and the resolution has been included for you in the packet this evening if that is your direction. But again, staff's recommendation was to allow some time for the preparation of the report and to see the results of this evening's election and how these three various options would play together. And so if you have any questions, we're ready to answer them.
So question, if Measure F passes and it becomes law of the city of Half Moon Bay, do we have to do anything tonight, or can we just say tonight that if F passes, then that's what will become law, or if Eve passes, if Eve passes, then of course we'd have to have the election. But if F passes, why would we do an election since it's what's on the ballot already?
I'll defer the legal technicalities to Tony. I will say that if the proponents of the Main Street Bridge Preservation Act petition for the November election requested the city to withdraw that measure, they could do so.
I think that is the purpose of the staff recommendation, is that it's somewhat unusual for an initiative measure to be on the ballot for a city law that is already in effect. That has occurred in the context of a city council ordinance that's been approved that the voters want to make sure it doesn't get modified without voter approval. But substantively, the language of Measure F is identical to that of the Main Street Bridge Preservation Act that will go on the November ballot. So that's our intent, is to analyze what the legal effect of that is. And given that, assuming Measure F passes and then the Main Street Bridge Preservation Act passes, the law will not have changed on November 5th at all from that which would be in effect prior to the November election. So we need to think that through and analyze it, and that's what we want to report back to you on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's wise, because I don't know if we continue to move forward to even be reviewing the bridge from now on without a vote to the people if Measure F passes, number one. Number two, testing and scoping, are we still, able to move forward with that? Number three, I know I've talked to other communities throughout the country about funding, and do we have to release the potential funding to repair or replace this bridge? I mean, these are things we need to know, and the public needs to know if we're going to be releasing $7 million back to the Federal Highway Transportation Commission. So I think a wise decision would be to report back, in my opinion, at this time.
I think that's a good suggestion, and we will touch upon that in the report that comes back, should you move in that direction. I don't think we'll have all the answers, because those are complicated issues, and some of them are policy issues for the council to grapple with. For instance, to what extent do you want to go down the path of modifying the existing structure, rehabilitating it, and adding the safety improvements that have been identified, while there is still the impediment of obtaining voter approval at the end of the process? How much do you want to invest in the rehabilitation with safety improvements when there's that much uncertainty involved? So those are some of the things that we're going to have to grapple with. Like I said, I don't think we'll have all the answers by the next council meeting, but we will try to touch upon some of those issues.
I think our bicycle pedestrian $500,000 grant from the VPAC will need to be checked out also, because there is a time limit on that. And if we don't meet that timeline, we have to give back the $500,000.
That was $500,000 will have to be returned?
Yeah, because if we can't use it within a certain timeline, City of Half Moon Bay has to give back $500,000.
So it looks like we will be returning large sums of money, possibly. The CEQA process, does it continue to move forward, or does that stop if Measure F passes?
The passage of the measure doesn't stop the actual process that we're in right now toward testing the bridge and doing the background work necessary for the permitting process. So unless the council directs otherwise, we can still move forward with the preliminary work toward permitting and the environmental review. Like I said, ultimately, I think the council may want to have a policy discussion about, where you want to end up if it passes, and how far you want to commit to doing the project, assuming that funding is available when you don't know the certainty of that.
Well, I think we have no choice then but to take the, I believe it's the third alternative, is that correct?
The first recommendation from staff was to direct staff to prepare a report pursuant to the elections code. Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that then?
Yes.
I would so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just to make clear, once we've reported back to the council, then the next action that the law would require at the next meeting would be, after you've received the report, to order that the measure be placed on the November ballot. So the outcome of the report is for your information and for the public's information, but it will not change the fact that that the law requires the council to order that the election be held in November on the matter.
Go ahead, comments.
I'm sorry, Mayor, but if the people of Measure F say that they don't want it on the ballot, then can they say that they can pull it? Okay.
But with the report, we'll also state in there about funding and what our limitations are. Hopefully, I know you can't get all the information because it is very complex, this situation.
We will attempt to address the funding issues, but like I said, I don't think we'll have all the, we will
Thank you
not
very
have all
much.
of the answers.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, so ordered. We move on to item 11, I'm sorry. A lot of items here tonight.
A lot going on tonight. I'm going to let Alex do the presentation for the SAM budget. I just want to, opening remarks on it is, you know, one of the things that we want to make sure of is the city of Half Moon Bay is that we are paying, that we are protecting our ratepayers when we're looking at the SAM budget, that we are making sure that our ratepayers are paying what they need to pay and what they are legally obligated to pay. That's, you know, staff's perspective. You know, our whole goal here is for the ratepayers. It's not a city issue per se, but it is a ratepayer issue. I'll let Alex walk through the budget and staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Stuart. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Alex Kojikian, Deputy City Manager. The item before you this evening is the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side fiscal year 2014-15 combined budget. This is one of the annual budgets that come before you for your approval. So just to give you guys a little bit of background on the item, allocation formula. So the way the city pays for the SAM, the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side's treatment and operations budget is based on the daily percentage flow of the sewage to the treatment plant. This current fiscal year, the city is paying 50%. And this upcoming next fiscal year, we're going to be dropping down to 48.9. So our flows went down slightly. For collections, that is the maintenance of the 34 miles of sewer pipes that are running throughout our city, along with our pump station maintenance, where we have 3 pump stations. And that budget is based on the hours of SAM employees, staff that are working in our system. And so this year it'll go up a little bit from the previous year, up to 34.9% of that budget. And then for projects, that is based on capacity rights, so how much of SAM the city owns, and that'll stay the same as part of the JPA that was approved almost 40 years ago at 50.5%. So the proposed budget for fiscal year 14-15. So the total proposed budget is a little over $4 million for the operations, and this includes the cost for the entire SAM agency and includes contributions from Montera, Granada, and Half Moon Bay. The total cost for operations, maintenance, and collections is over $4 million. You have $3.15 million for operations maintenance and $869,000 for collections. Half Moon Bay's portion of this $4 million amount is $1.84 million. So for O&M budget, it's $1.54 million and $300,000 for collections. So this is just the overall proposed budget and Half Moon Bay's share. It's just another nice graphic of what I was talking about before. So now there's a third budget that was passed by the SAM Board of Directors, and that was the plant and collections replacement budget. This budget was of 3 projects that totaled $500,000. Unfortunately, what the board approved did not come back in its form because it's all about wording for SAM JPA. The budget that was sent on behalf of SAM staff to the member agencies was a capitalized maintenance budget, but that wasn't exactly what the SAM board approved. So, but the items that are included in the budget remain the same as what was approved by the SAM board for the plant and collections replacement budget. I apologize, it's it's complicated, but language is everything with a JPA agreement. So the three projects that have been sent off to us member agencies or the city to approve was for rehabilitating a portion of the Montero Force main. That was a $300,000 project. Complete some air valve replacements on the IPS, and then $100,000 for more reliability improvements over at the treatment plant. All three of these projects listed above are very important and need to be completed in the fiscal year 2014-15 timeframe to protect the environment of the coast from possible future sewer system overflows, and those are spills. Staff recommends, though, to only fund the portion of the treatment plant reliability improvement project, which is $50,500, which would be our 50.5% project amount for that $100,000 project for fiscal year 2014. This is due to, in accordance with the SAM JPA, city staff does not recommend participating in funding the air valve replacement project in the Montero Force main rehabilitation project due to three different subsections of the JPA that I have listed up on the PowerPoint. One is the section where it states that we would only be responsible for maintaining the equipment with the IPS and the pump stations for the useful life thereof. Then it had that when the JPA was formed, that it was supposed to run till the year 2000. And then also there's the project budget section that says that you guys can opt out if you guys choose to do so. So some of the highlights that we have here is the operations and maintenance budget remains flat year over year. In fiscal year 14-15, the SAM O&M budget, the city will already be contributing almost $493,000 for treatment plant maintenance and for pump stations and for the IPS as well in account numbers 518-2004 and account 518-2005. There will be increased staffing for the collections team to go ahead and clean each individual member agency's collection systems. And then staff is recommending to fund a portion of the priority treatment plant reliability improvement project, which was $50,500. So my requested action this evening to the council is to go ahead and improve the combined budgets, the O&M, SAM O&M budget, and the collections budget, and then approve a partial just for one project for the treatment plant reliability upgrades at 50.5% of the $100,000 project, so $50,500. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I understand that it's complicated, so I'm ready.
Thank you, Alex. Any comments regarding this agenda item?
Yeah, every year we have this battle with the SAM budget when it comes to projects and maintenance. And there needs to become a point when we need to get this thing really stabilized so we're all on the same page. And I can remember us not voting on the budget because of these capital projects, maintenance, whatever you call them. And so, I mean, it's just like Alex said, it's all about language and how we present these items. So at first glance, I was total agreement with staff about only paying for portion of the project. And so I'm still giving some thought to that. I'd like to hear what the other council members have to say, but at this point, I'm supporting what the staff is recommending.
Any other comments? Vice Mayor, comments?
Well, I think, this is just, it's challenging all the time. You want to protect your ratepayers in your area, yet you also don't want anything to happen to the entire coast, so you have that piece in there. I think there is the question of what is a project and what is a capital project that belongs to an entity. I think so much of that still has to be fleshed out. So I know I'd like to hear from our two SAM board members on this.
Call check.
Thank you. So I think there's probably not awareness in the community for the things that we pay for at SAM. So as an example, we pay for projects within the city of Half Moon Bay at the rate of 100%. And we pay for projects that are not in the city of Half Moon Bay at the rate of 50%. You could do the math on that and see that it's a bad deal. Yeah. So, but at the same time, I'm looking at these projects, and I know that is an unequitable situation. But at the same time, we have to look at supporting the most important projects to protect the coast while we continue to resolve this unbalanced situation. And so for that reason, I'm in support of funding and approving the budget for these projects because it's what's needed for the coast. I think if you look at the JPA, there's a tit for tat, back and forth tension, and we need to address that. And we have to bring that up at SAM and talk with them about that. But for the protection of the coast, I think this is appropriate. I have a second comment, and I'll ask it at SAM unless staff has the opportunity to ask it sooner. I want to understand the circumstances under which the budget that SAM approved, that we approved as a board, was renamed under a different title. It may sound like a very tiny thing. It is not a tiny thing. It is actually a very substantial thing, because the very specific language of our joint powers agreement dictates, based on specific wording, who pays for what. And so we approved X, but then it came to the city as Y. And I want to get to the bottom of that.
Through the mayor, I thank you for bringing that up, council member, because that was one of my concerns. We approved the budget under one term, and it came back to us under another term. So that's why I'm talking about language and how they change things around to make it so that we end up being the fall guy for having to pay for everything. So I think sometime we've got to get to be able to look at that JPA to find out how we can make this a little bit more manageable and be fair to our ratepayers, because our ratepayers are paying 150%.
Councilman Alfano?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as we've been saying, this is not a simple matter, and as the sentiments were just echoed, we don't want to have any kind of sewer spill anywhere on the coast. SAM is responsible to make sure that all of this product is treated properly and doesn't affect the environment. That's the responsibility of SAM, and we're part of SAM. But we're dealing with a JPA that's 40 years old. I think the correct course of action at this point is, as we've said, we need to find out why was this item renamed when the board named it very clearly capital projects. Number two, I think we need to, the council needs to say to SAM, we're going to fully fund the $500,000, but going forward between now and the next budget, we need to have an independent third party come in and relook at the JPA and decide what it would take to bring it current to the current activities. If SAM can agree to that, then I think we can all feel much more comfortable going forward that our ratepayers are paying their fair share of the operations of SAM. And short of that, we're going to go through this every year, not sure if in fact our ratepayers are paying the right amount. So I think that's got to be our goal, and I'm hoping our SAM members, the other agencies, will understand Half Moon Bay wants to pay its fair share. We're not arguing that. We just feel on anything that's 40 years old, it's time to bring it up to date and verify that it's still, that we need to know what's current and proper for the three agencies.
Vice Mayor?
Just tackling on the comment for the JPA. I think the biggest issue, and I know our friends from the north have it, is the JPA has an even number. And so many decisions can't get made because there could be a tie. And where do you go from that vote? So if anything is looked at, what is the correct way, the policy? And you're right, given the 40 years from that, with, populations have changed dramatically. I mean, Montera and El Granada have exploded in residences, as well as Half Moon Bay, but they've really gone up from where they were too. So I think there's a whole lot of that in territory. So, a third party may be the way, because I don't think that could be handled in-house.
Yeah, it's just so simple when you look at operations and capital and maintenance. It's just, there's got to be a separation there. And for the ratepayers of Half Moon Bay to realize that they're going to be putting up, and we have put up millions of dollars over the years for our neighbor agencies to the north, there has to come a time when it has to be reviewed and looked closely at. The particular word, I appreciate staff going through this, the useful life. In other words, if there's a pipe or a valve that's in your agency that's worn out, the useful life is over. Why do you come back to the other member agencies to assess them to pay for your valve or your pipe or your pump or your roof that's in your, it's really hard to understand. And I don't think there's another joint powers agency in the state that has a 4-4 vote. I don't know. I guess we could research it or whatever, but that's a tough one to try to keep moving things forward. And I do appreciate the two members that are representing the city right now, trying to work hard on that. I don't like them to have to come out of a meeting with one resolution and then be changed somewhere down the line. You don't do that. You all voted and agreed on one thing and then it's changed somewhere midstream. That's bad management, and I don't think we would recommend doing that anywhere. So it's like Groundhog Day. We could sit here and rehash this thing over the years like we have, but this is a time maybe that we have to suggest, as Councilman Alfano mentioned, that we're in agreement at this time to protect the environment, which we always have been, but it's time that Sam grows up and makes a decision to look at the future of the JPA for the next 40 years. So that's my thoughts. Councilman Qualty.
Yeah, one more comment is that I am strongly not in favor of approving anything that has been renamed, and it has to be done under the that which we approved at the SAM board.
I understand your feelings. But again, we do have to take a vote on this item tonight, and we do have recommendations from staff on it. And here's the requested action. Staff recommends. And, really and truly, when it comes to digging deep into these budgets and all the issues, we appreciate all the work you've done, Alex, and staff, and our manager, Stewart. So at this time, if someone would like to make a motion for the requested action, we could call for a vote once we have a motion in a second.
Yeah, it's one moment. I just want to read this. So I move to adopt a resolution to approve the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast SAM combined operation and maintenance and collections budget and the collections replacement budget as named and stated in by the Sewer Authority Board of Directors.
And my understanding, based on the council conversation, is that you were recommending to participate to the 50.5% in all three of the projects, not just the one that staff is recommending. I just want to make sure that staff is clear on that.
That is my understanding. That's what I'm suggesting and moving.
Does the council understand that motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a
Pardon me,
second, and
Mr.
maybe
Mayor,
a
before you,
clarification, please.
Call for the vote. I just want to point out that there is some whereas language in the resolution that we would like to modify. I don't think you need to go through and make line-by-line corrections, but given the staff recommendation, the resolution will need to be revised significantly in order to affect the council's action. So, like I said, I don't think you need to go through and look at the particular language, but we will clean that up before a resolution is prepared for execution by the mayor.
Staff, do we understand that revised motion?
Did that include with taking a look at the JPA next year?
I didn't include that. So we'd have to amend. You can amend the second?
The motion maker and the seconder can amend the motion.
I agree.
I need some assistance with that language, seconder. You had suggested language regarding discussing the JPA, and I did not include that in my motion.
So you're going to add to your motion that we approve this along with the recommendation the JPA be updated?
May I make a suggestion that we're approving the budget as stated and recommended with a caveat to have Sam hire a third party to take a look at the JPA structure as it is now and make recommendations.
Are you saying contingent upon or suggesting?
It's got to get settled one way or another. What do you think you can live with, or what would get this done at the SAM board?
I think the terminology, the city council strongly suggests that SAM board hire a third party to look at updating the JPA. I think at this point that's the correct language to take it at this point in time. It's clear enough. I don't think we have to make it any stronger than that.
So does it require to be in the motion? That's the question I think that our legal team and staff will want to know.
Yeah, we would add language to that effect to the resolution.
You want it in the resolution?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, so then the seconder and the maker of the motion agree to that at this time, or no?
So my understanding is, let me recap, the motion is to, I'll make a comment first. The comment is that the city council can select to participate in collections replacement projects at our discretion. And the motion is to participate at 100% for the next year. So thus approving the collections replacement budget at 100%. I mean, all the items, as well as the combined operation and maintenance and collections budget, with the addition that encouragement to discuss opening the JPA. Is that correct?
Yes, I second that.
Staff have that recorded properly? So we have the motion and a second. Staff with comment?
Got it recorded properly. Just want to let you know, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for that. So at this time, if we have no further discussion, we can have a roll call vote on the motion.
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
I'm going to vote no, basically because I have never believed in the city of Half Moon Bay having to pay for capital projects for the other member agencies. And I know it's in the JPA, and since this is my last term that I can have any kind of impact, I am voting no.
Councilmember Paulcheck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, 4-1, recorded vote. And we will move on now to the next item on the agenda.
So this is the review of recommendation of no change in sewer service charge rates for 2014-2015. We had discussed this at the previous city council meeting. Even though you've added about $200,000 worth of expenses above and beyond what we had anticipated, there's still not a need for a rate increase. There's still enough money that we're charging based on all the fiscal prudence that you've shown in the past that we're able to afford that. We also have some money available in reserves for if additional emergencies happen during the year. So based on everything that you have done in the past, we do not need to do a rate increase this year. I think that shows good forethought in the past. And what staff recommended last time is that we would be working with Sam to look at their 10-year budget, 10-year capital budget to figure out what their needs are going to be and how our ratepayers are going to be able to afford that. And then also look at the capital projects that the city needs to do and see how the ratepayers can afford that at the same time. So with that, I would just recommend that this is a year that we spend more time planning than we do raising rates.
Discussion with staff's comments?
I just want to make a philosophical comment, and that is, this is the reason why when it comes to me as a member of the City Council on the sewer fees, to be really proud that we don't have to increase our fees because we have been diligent. And it's the same thing with our capital projects. And so I really get irritated, to say the least, when we have to put our hard taxpayers' money into accommodating the other agencies. So I just want to thank this council and staff for really keeping on top of this, so our ratepayers don't have an increase this year.
Any further discussion? I agree. I think, we ask all of our ratepayers for a number of things, but I think this is an opportunity where we showed that we've done the right thing, we've saved, and for this budget year 14-15, we are not looking at an increase, which I would imagine we're probably one of the only agencies around to ever do this, but at least we're doing it tonight to show courage that we don't need to keep hitting them up. So that's my comments.
If there's no other comments, I would move that we confirm staff's recommendation of no charge in sewer service charge rates for the fiscal year 2014-15.
I'll second.
I moved in second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
Yes.
Councilmember Paulcheck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, so ordered, 5-0. And moving on to 413. Scott, you're back on again, please.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity to present for your consideration our final draft of the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget. The story of this budget message is a positive one. This current budget, as we look at these numbers and as we assembled this document, This budget is the outworking of strategic decisions that were made in this community's best interests, and we're now seeing the benefit of. The tough choices that were made years ago have set this organization on a trajectory of success, and that's where we are at this present time. That's the story of this budget. So the budget process, it's been a long time getting here. As you know, the process spans many months and a number of iterations and until we arrive at a draft for adoption. Every department has met with finance in the assembly and review and reworking of this draft. And the recommendations, you'll recall, we brought the first round to you in March, and we took your direction. And from that study session, we have incorporated those recommendations, or that direction, into the final draft. And that brings us to this evening, as well as our last opportunity to make any changes or recommendations. The strategic elements are well known, and I'll only mention them by way of saying these continue to act as drivers and guidelines for the priority and activities of the allocation of resources. These are guiding principles for us as we put these numbers together. A few key takeaways here of the budget message. As I mentioned earlier, this budget represents prudence, discipline, and structural balance. Good news, revenues are trending positive. Projected expenses were carefully considered as we put this together, and one-time spending recommendations are now a part of the draft in front of you. And this is what it looks like. Before, we had a projected surplus. We added council direction into this, and now you see we have a structurally balanced budget as we look at inflows and outflows, with roughly $14.4 million in revenues and expenditures. One last look here at the general fund reserve levels. Again, very positive. 4.3 million in committed reserve, and this is per city policy of 30% of operational expenditures. 2.4 million in assigned reserve for future projects. This represents council's intention for the future of these funds, and 1.5 million in unassigned reserve. Look here at other funds. We've been talking about general fund, but this is some of them are groups of funds, but in addition to the general fund, there's an overview of budgets for major and minor funds. And these funds, as you know, have restrictions, with some of them being very specific, such as gas tax, sewer, CIP debt service, and etc. One-year capital improvement plan, and I have to apologize that I just realized I picked up an incorrect number here. That should be 2 million up top. The table in your staff report is correct. So this represents, topping the list there though, are streets, as you know, Highway 1, Main Street Bridge, Sewer, and Library. And the total should be 9.9 million. And the 5-year CIP plan, totaling, the total is actually 85.2. Again, I picked up that incorrect number based on my calculations there. And again, major components the same, Main Street Bridge, Highway 1, Library, and Sewer. So some takeaways in summary, and just to reiterate, the past decisions that were sometimes difficult put us on a trajectory of success. However, long-term planning is still needed, and all of us as staff are currently working to implement and schedule budget priorities as directed by council for the long-term best interest of the city. Proposed action, staff recommends that City Council adopt the resolution approving the fiscal year 2014-2015 operating budget, 1-year and 5-year CIP plan. And I am certainly available for questions.
Thank you, Scott. When it comes to this type of numbers and where we've been and where we are now, it's very easy to criticize, but I think this is a classic example that shows that this council and staff has made the right decisions to put this city on a positive note. And so I'm just, once in a while, we should take credit for making tough decisions, and I thank the council for doing what we've done, and I think the community appreciates it as a whole. And so I thank you for all your hard work. I often think about you finance people that in private sector, your February, March, and April months are busy, but I think in municipal, you're busy all the time with all of these funds. So I thank you for all that work. Any other comments to staff or questions?
I'm going to make a comment, and probably my 4 other council members are going to be a little upset with me, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to recommend that we take the city council raises out of the budget, and that we do other alternatives of doing the things that we need to cover for council, such as the technology and other kind of things, if there's other ways of doing that. I am not a proponent of giving the council a raise right now, and I would like to see us to do a different kind of format of, because I really believe that the council does need the technology sitting up here, even though I am not a technology person, but I think the rest of you all are, and you need to be able to have that expense to be covered. And so I think that would be probably a better way of trying to get you guys up technology rather than just giving you a flat rate.
If I may, I thought that was included in that. Am I wrong in that?
So what was included in the budget was the items that you had picked up for the $1.6 million, and included in that was $8,000 for pay raises for the city council. At that time, we had talked about also putting in some money for technology allowance, and I think maybe what we would want to do is look at similar cities to us and see what kinds of allowances that they provided their city council members. I know in Brisbane, we provide a cell phone allowance, we provide a technology allowance, we provide a vehicle allowance because of all the amount of driving that you do on behalf of the city. So what we could do is look at other cities that are similar size and bring back what they do. And the nice thing about an allowance is if a council member doesn't use that, then they don't take the allowance. If they do use it, they do. So it's more of a reimbursement for what the council members put out on behalf of the city. So I would say, as opposed to, if that's the direction the city council wants to do, we'll come back maybe in the July or an August timeframe with a report about what other cities similar to us do for allowances.
So what I'm hearing is that we're not necessarily changing the budget, but we may reallocate it a different way.
Right, I think if we reallocate it, I think it would make better use of the money. I seriously believe that, because then you would be getting some benefit out of it. Because most of all of us, the money we get, you donate it back to something else, and so you end up having to do all your technology and things. So I think having served on the council, all my money goes to scholarships or other things and stuff, and you end up buying all the technology things that you need to buy. That really makes your job easier. Not for me, but for you guys.
Well, I think as mayor, the last few weeks with cell phones, it's been quite expensive with the cell phones because responding, and I got a hunch the media is calling me right now. I've gotten a couple of calls buzzing here. But so can we agree to move forward with this process and have staff review city council funds?
And I'm okay with that, because it's really the technology piece. So an iPhone is $600 if you don't have someone's plan. I mean, this is $700, $800, $900 for that. So what I'd be looking for coming back from staff is something that, say, that almost issues someone new technology for each term. So you get an iPad, you get a new iPhone or whatever cell phone you like. And then in addition to that, a monthly technology upgrade. So say I pay almost $100 for my Wi-Fi cell on this, so something that does that, but an initial amount of money that every 4 years, because technology does change every 4 years. So I would like it phrased in a term that people get their technology in addition, because that's what I would look. It's not so much council needs a raise. I'd just like to keep up with what people have spent, and I think that's only fair.
I absolutely agree. I think the cost of all that, it needs to be covered. I mean, and it gets really expensive.
Through the mayor. So I'm going to withhold most comments, but not all comments, until we see sort of a benchmark or what some of cities are doing. At the end of the day, if the mayor is giving an extra $100 for a scholarship out of his whopping $270.05 a month, if he was making another $100, that would certainly be more benefit to his family. And same thing for me, likewise for me, my family, and what I'm able to do with it. So I want to see what the benchmark is. Clearly, I think there's not been an increase in council compensation for like a decade. So it is not unreasonable to think about doing that. But let's see what the benchmarks are. We'll come back.
Yeah, I believe they did present us the benchmarks for salaries of other ones, so we could balance it all out and see where it's at there. And as I said, again, the community is giving and sharing, and when you do get to a function that is sponsored, normally you end up donating more. The other night at the Children's Theater, they were having an auction I wasn't aware of, so guess what? We donated. So we'll keep going from there. So are we comfortable with this agenda item at the moment, 13? Yep. So a motion, please.
I move to adopt the resolution approving the fiscal year 2014-15 operating budget and the 1-year and 5-year capital improvement plan budgets. And on a personal note, it's not really a spending spree. It's distributing money back into the community that they've asked for.
I'll second.
Thank you for that comment. Moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please. Oh, did you have a discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
Yes.
Councilmember Polchak?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, very good. Talking about putting back into the community, Lieutenant Muncie, thank you for your patience, or I'm not sure who's, and Michelle. Both of you, so thank you. Welcome.
I think it's a tag team.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to, report out on the budget for the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety, otherwise known as the COPS grant. For the fiscal year 14-15 COPS grant, Half Moon Bay will be awarded $100,000. I know the city is very aware of this. We've been part of this project for over a decade now. The funds are used for projects, programs, and/or equipment for frontline law enforcement officers. It's also utilized to enhance law enforcement services currently provided under the contract by the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. This year, we are actually rolling over $74,000 in unspent funding from fiscal year 13-14. The total amount available for fiscal year 14-15 is $174,000. The proposed budget is $20,000 for the Youth Summit for the spring of 2015, which promotes positive choices for 8th graders entering high school. $4,000 for National Night Out, which will be led by our new neighborhood watch groups. $70,000 to augment patrol, mostly on high tourist times in the summer and the weekends. The augmented patrol will consist of extra patrol, our traffic motor enforcement units, and also bicycle units. $10,000 to purchase and install video equipment for a new interview room. And lastly, $70,000 to substation refurbish and equipment. Most of that money will go to, we have 2 empty decommissioned cells that aren't being used anymore, and we want to turn that into the interview room, and then a few other upgrades on the substation. Total amount not to exceed $174,000. In summary, staff recommends that council adopt a resolution authorizing the finance director to accept the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety Grant Funds for fiscal year 2014-15 for $100,000. Further approve the use of those funds on projects, programs, and equipment that meet the conditions of the grant.
Thank you. May I ask a quick question,
Yes,
Lieutenant? On the holding cells decommissioned now, so there's no more holding of a suspect, then they're delivered elsewhere?
Yes, that is correct. So they've been looked at and decommissioned through the Board of State and Community Corrections. And they're just sitting there empty rooms at this time.
Thank you. So in other words, they're not adequate any longer?
No, the locks have been taken off. They're not even usable.
Very good. Thank you for that update. Any other questions of Lieutenant Muncy and Michelle?
Just to say that I think this is great, and the Youth Summit, as we saw, was such a positive force for the community. Kids were still talking about the speakers and just being able to use and see all of the cool equipment the sheriffs, the FBI, and SWAT teams have. So, and then the National Night Out, I think that's important, as we need to empower our citizens to be more aware of things going on in their neighborhood. So I think this is all great.
Okay.
I would move to adopt the resolution authorizing the finance director to accept the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety Grant Funds for fiscal year 2014-15, $400,000, and approve using those funds on projects, programs, and equipment that meet the conditions of the grant.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alfonso?
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Muller?
Yes, I believe Councilman Kowalczyk just stepped out for a moment, but I'm sure he would support our motion. Oh, I guess that's not ghost voting, right, Tony? In Sacramento, we can't do ghost voting. Got to have a little humor after what we've been through
Well,
tonight.
if we need him, I'll go drag him out of wherever he is.
I think we have a 4-0 vote. So ordered. And moving on. Yep.
Sorry. For the establishment of the Half Moon Bay Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, one of the things that we left out of this is the number of participants and how those participants would be recruited. What I would recommend is maybe you put this off until a later meeting, so staff can do a little bit more work and give you a plan for how many people you would have on the committee, and how we would go about advertising for those people, and what types of skills, what type of a skill set we would be looking for. So that would be our staff's recommendation at this point.
Councilman Alfano, and then I'll get back to you.
One recommendation to staff, I think what helped us get some really good people on the GPAC committee was appointing a subcommittee that worked on it, and Naomi and I, in some cases, reached out to people, asked for names, and I think we need to be proactive in these cases. So I would recommend we might consider, again, creating a council subcommittee to get the absolute best candidates.
And that makes sense. I mean, one of the things that are really important for this is that, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee does a lot with the Safe Route to Schools. So maybe working with some of the school organizations to see who they have, that might be good, working with some of the bicycle interests in the community. So I think it would be good to work with the council, and we're just trying to come up with what kinds of people would be the best fit for this. And we would like to come back with a little bit more complete staff work.
Yeah, so I think number one, we want more information on that without a doubt. And then number two is we have to stress it's have to be City of Half Moon Bay residents, correct? And number three, we could put a subcommittee together of the mayor and the vice mayor if the vice mayor would agree.
Anybody who's a biker?
Well,
I have my cruiser I got from the bike packs. I
and
use
so
the trails.
I think, why don't we go with that? We will be waiting to hear from staff on that, so, all right? All right, see you later, okay. Okay, so officers have a call, and so we will conclude the meeting. I believe this is the last item on the agenda, and so we will adjourn at this time. Thank all of you for your patience tonight.
Victory celebration. Thank you. All right. So you got time for your work committee. I'll hear about it. And you, your suggestions is valuable. You think so?
Gary says he doesn't know. I do too. As long as they don't circle around here.
All right. Thank you.
felt you were lighter here. What was that affect that?
I don't know, I also,
On your side to them.
institute a very specific format for these, so that we would, white with black text works great, you don't need all the snaps and the blues, white and black really makes up there, so. I'm gonna try one more time to lecture